So you may have heard advice like this.
Don't practice with metronomes.
But you might have also heard this.
I have a hard time believing that. You know, especially as someone who has practiced with a metronome and found great uses for it.
So are metronomes a good practice tool? So that was Jeff Berlin and Janek Gwizdala, two of the best bass players in the world, and also two of the best bass educators in the world. And I've never really felt confident about which one is true. So I've used them on and off over the years, admittedly not for a while, but I still don't feel confident in my opinion. I feel like my timing's okay. Whether that was down to using metronomes, I don't know. And this argument isn't something new. One of the first adopters of metronomes that we know about was Beethoven. But they've also faced criticism from other musicians such as Brahms and Wagner. But these days, the music industry looks very different. It's commonplace to play to a click in a recording session or on a gig. Everything seems to be locked to a grid, and as musicians, being able to play to the click is a skill you must develop. So to try and get to the bottom of this, I decided to run an experiment. So what I'm going to do is record myself playing an A pentatonic minor scale into Logic. I'm going to set the click to 60 beats per minute. That way it's quite a slow tempo, therefore harder to play to, probably because there's more space between the beat and therefore more room for error. I would then spend 5 days practicing the same scale to a click at 60 beats per minute for 20 minutes a day. And finally, I would record again into Logic and then compare day 1 and day 5 and see if I've made any improvement. So to make this a bit more interesting, I asked my friend Rob to try the same thing. He also plays guitar, so I thought it'd be interesting to see it from the perspective of a different instrument. Rob's asked me to play in a couple of his videos in the past, so it's been nice to repay the favour. So if you're interested in seeing those videos, I'll put the link in the description. So, behind the beat on the first one, pretty much on the beat for the second one. In front of the beat for the next. And the next. Okay, so I just completed the first test and pretty shocked, to be honest. I was hoping for better than that. I was ahead of the beat a lot of the time, which is definitely what I don't want. Being behind the beat isn't too bad. Sometimes it's desirable to play behind the beat, but I'm in front of the beat and that does sound bad in my opinion. I was tempted to do it again actually, but in the name of science, I'm going to stick with that and just swallow my pride, and hopefully I can improve on it.
So I think this is a great idea. Even after playing guitar for many years, you can't underestimate the importance of taking a closer look at your technique and your timing, two crucial aspects of being a musician, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to doing this little experiment. So let's get started. So I've got my guitar plugged in, I'm going to press record and see how I do. 60 BPM on the metronome. The thing that I like about this is that 60 BPM is quite slow, and I think it's more important to test your timing with a slower metronome than a faster one, because there's more space in between the clicks, which means that you've got to be more accurate and wait the right amount of time between each one, which is easy to do when you've got a faster click, in my opinion. So slowing it down is great for this, so let's give it a try. So I've just done my first take, my first go of playing the scale along with the click at 60 BPM, and I felt pretty good about it. And I've just had a quick look at it, and I'm just looking at it now, and I'm zooming in, and I mean, I started pretty much bang on the first click, but then from there, when I'm having a look at every single click, That one is slightly in front of it, slightly behind, and then all of them after it seem to be slightly behind each click by, I mean, a fraction. And even if you were listening to it with the click, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that much, but definitely when you look at it up close, I wasn't expecting this to be anywhere near this bad. I thought I had pretty good timing until now. Now I'm starting to question myself. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty good experiment because, you know, if you don't practice this sort of stuff, that one's not too bad as well. So this is why this is a worthwhile thing doing. Even if you've been playing guitar for a long time and you think you've got good timing, it's always worth checking. Maybe we should do this every so often. We should do this a few times a year just to check that we're still on track. But yeah, I would say out of my entire playthrough that I did for my first one, 2 of the notes were pretty much bang on and the rest are out, which is a lot. So I'm not very happy with that, but that's why this is a good thing to do. So I'm going to get practicing. The first one, I'm pretty, you know, there was like 2 hits out of the entire thing that I would consider on beat, and the rest were like pretty much late. There might have been one slightly early or something, but like most of them were late. Yeah. Which was a surprise to me because I think my timing's pretty good until I saw that, and it's like I'm slightly late on everything. Yeah. So I wasn't too happy about that, but then I did the second one. I think maybe subconsciously I was preempting them because I knew that I was late last time. This time round, I'm trying to speed it up a bit, and I maybe pushed it too far the opposite way.
Do you know what's weird about that? Is the exact opposite thing happened to me.
Really?
Like I was really early for the majority of the beats in the first test, and the second test it was all after the beat. There's a couple that were on it and one that was before, but it was like the opposite. And I think it was the same thing.
Really?
I was like trying not to be in front of the beat.
But I definitely noticed I had more on beat the second time round.
Right.
Like I said, there was like 2 that were on beat in the entire first test, and the second one.
I listened to your first one because you sent me the video as soon as you'd done it, and I thought it sounded all right.
I agree. Like when I played my first one, after I'd finished doing the recording, I thought, yeah, that was all right. That I might not need to make much improvements. And then, you know, you listen to it, it sounds fine, but when you zoom in on it and really look at it, like, wow, that was horrendous. You know, from a musician who's been playing nearly 2 decades point of view, like horrendous in the sense that I should be better.
What was your practice like before this? Did you ever use a metronome? Would you use it diligently or occasionally?
I use a metronome a lot in teaching, but a lot of that is me sort of demonstrating to a student something to try, like an exercise to try. Yeah. And for them, it's not so much making sure they're perfectly in time. It's more just giving them something to play to, because I think it's important to have some sort of something to try and keep up with. Also, I notice a lot of my students tend to play things faster than they need to. Yeah, it's quite a good tool for discipline. Yeah, people play things, whether it's nerves or whether it's excitement, you know, they just race through things and they don't need to.
What I think was weird was that we were both I was in front of the beat on the first test, you were behind the beat, but when we played together, I think we were a pretty tight band, weren't we? Like we had a good drummer, so that helped. But like, never felt like we were playing with different feels. It felt like we were all together. And
do you think part of it was the fact that it wasn't like a test, and we weren't sort of examining ourselves? We were just playing, and it was more natural. Whereas sticking a camera on and pressing record on your thing, you know, it shines more of a light on your technique, so there's more of like pressure.
How useful is a test like this? It's not a real musical situation, is it? It's because it's like you said, like you were subconsciously trying to not be behind the beat, and I was subconsciously not trying to be in front of the beat. So, and look what happened. So maybe this wasn't the best test. I think it was worthwhile for me. I feel like I developed some skills. All right, man, I'll let you go. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you helping me out with this one.
All right. If you got any more, fire them my way.
Will do, man. Catch you later.
No worries. Cheers for that. See you later.
So we both thought this practice had a mostly positive effect. Rob achieved his goal of playing more on top of the beat, and I achieved my goal of playing less in front of the beat. We both weren't perfect, but is that something you should strive for? I'm not sure. If you were playing exactly on the beat 100% of the time, would that sound too robotic? So what do I recommend? I think it's important to practice timing. However, I'm not sure using a metronome all the time is a good idea. Whilst researching this video, I couldn't find one respected bass tutor that recommended using a metronome all the time. I feel like sometimes it gets in the way, especially when you're trying to learn something new. Having said that, I think there should be at least some practice when it comes to timing. I was once told that your timing was like a clock. It reads accurately, but every now and again it needs winding up. I can think of quite a few faults with this experiment. If I was to do it again, and maybe I will in the future, there are a few things I'd change. First of all, Rob and I both felt that the initial test wasn't an effective way of measuring someone's timing because of the pressure of the situation. So I'll probably record it for a bit longer, and then maybe after a minute start measuring where the beats fall. I'd also like to increase the sample size, so maybe get like 1,000 musicians instead of just 2, all different instruments, all different abilities, and then collate the information and see what that brings us. Should timing be tested by a machine, or should it just be feel? Like we said, when we played in the band, there was no timing issues. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, please give us a like, a comment, and maybe even a subscribe. See you next time. See you next time.